weapon. But if they had the ability to enrich, as they do, up to 60%, sometimes up getting closer to 90%, and reprocessed, they would be the first country that did not build a nuclear weapon. So it's clear that there was a march towards a bomb. They failed IAEA inspections. There was talk of an implosion test, and there's also much reporting coming out about they were really racing towards a bomb, something that they can use when the time comes. And so the 60-day window I always looked at is, you shouldn't. It was a stalling tactic for the regime in many cases, which is great at tactical retreats to enrich, try and pose a nuclear threat to Israel.
Right. Anat, Israel has claimed significant damage to the Iranian nuclear sites and also the killing of nuclear scientists there. Israel's stated objective, do you feel that Israel has managed to achieve that objective as of now?
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, this is for Anat. This is for Anat. Yes.
No, not yet. Israel stated that some damage was made, but not all objectives were achieved. And that's why we will continue to strike in Iran until we are able to reach our bank of goals that were developed over years. It's not just started now. A lot of intel was going into that, and there is more work to do, but I think that they are achieving one by one, and hopefully it will be difficult to stop, but definitely hurt drastically the capabilities of Iran nuclear program.
Anat, how is Israel at this point of time balancing its security objectives with the risk of a wider regional war, because that is also a possibility? Also, we speak about red lines being crossed, and we have heard this from Israel itself, that the line has been crossed. Do you think it would now necessitate an even more severe Israeli response?
Tell me how different it is from October 7, in a sense that when the war broke in October 7, you would say that Hamas started the war, but it's actually Iran. It's Iran's money. It's Iran's proxies from south, from north, from east, from west, all over. So it's not new to us. We haven't crossed anything. And I truly hope that it will not be a regional, more than Israel-Iran conflict. I think that the region needs peace. We had enough war in the past 2 years. The Israelis are like the Indians. We seek peace. We want to have a startup nation and high tech, and that's what we want to do. We have no interest in hurting anyone. We just want to live in our one Jewish country in the world in peace. For the past, since inception in 1948, our neighbors didn't like us to be in the neighborhood. But we are here. We have nowhere to go, and we fight for our life. Iran is trying and very clearly saying that their mission is to destroy Israel. We can't let it happen because I don't have any other place. I have only one passport, one nationality, and we have to fight for our life, for our country, for our future.
Okay. Adrian Calamel, one final question from you. Considering this historical context of the conflict, what precedents or parallels, if any, can be drawn to understand the potential trajectory of this current escalation?
I personally do not think this is going to escalate into a wider regional war, as people talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, there are other proxies that will act up, but when you look at countries like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, it's muted. They don't want the Islamic Republic to have a bomb. As far as the military history books, they'll be looking at this operation. They'll be looking at the Hezbollah operations with both the pagers and the handheld communication devices and how they degraded them. So as far as military history goes, this will go down as one of the greatest in history, down with the 1967 war.
All right. Anat Burstein-Reich and Adrian Calamel. Thank you very much for speaking with NDTV and sharing your views.
Thank you.
All right, breaking news coming in at this time. Russian President Vladimir Putin, he had a phone conversation with the US President Donald Trump. From what we understand at this moment, this conversation, it lasted 50 minutes and it was productive. Vladimir Putin, he has informed Donald Trump about the progress of the prisoner exchange with Ukraine and also confirmed Russia's readiness to continue negotiations with Ukraine after the 22nd of June. We'll try and get my colleague Mohammad Ghazali on this. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin, he has also condemned Israel's military operation against Iran, and that is quite significant. The US president, he has also assessed the situation around Israel and Iran as, and he called it very alarming. The Russian president also stated that Russia's readiness to mediate between Israel and Iran. In fact, I have my colleague Mohammad Ghazali joining us to take us through the details of this phone call. Ghazali, over to you.
Yeah, so this phone call, as per the Russian readout, lasted for 50 minutes, and which prominently centered around the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran. And surprisingly, Russia said that it condemns Israeli aggression against Iran and also offered to mediate between Israel and Iran, because we know that there was a scheduled meeting between Iranian and U.S. authorities, which was ongoing for the nuclear program, which got stalled due to this ongoing attack. So Russian president has offered that Russia, having good relations with both Mr. Netanyahu as well as with the Iranian regime there, can offer itself to play the role of mediator. Now, this is also in the larger scheme of things. If you see the politics of Middle East, most of the superpowers, whether it's China or Russia or US, wants to have their greater influence in the region. And now it's a big setback for Mr. Putin as well, that he will have to bank on for Mr. Donald Trump, because he always campaigned that he is the one president who will bring peace in the Middle East as well as in Europe, but that has surprisingly failed. His objectives have failed, and now he will have to bank on Mr. Putin to bring stability in the region. So in that context, it's certainly a big setback for him, but we'll have to see whether Russia will get that opportunity to play the role of mediator between Israel and Iran.
All right, Mohammad Ghazali, thank you very much for getting us all the latest. So this is the big breaking news that is coming in. Vladimir Putin, he has had a phone call with the US President Donald Trump. It was a significant conversation between the two, and Trump has said that he wants to end the Ukraine conflict. This phone call lasted 50 minutes. In fact, the Russian President Vladimir Putin also said that he would be happy to mediate between Israel and Iran amid the ongoing conflict between the two nations. Meanwhile, a series of Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear and military facilities on Friday has put the entire Middle East region on the edge. NDTV has now accessed some satellite images from Maxar Technologies in order to assess the scale of the damage done to some of those facilities. In fact, my colleague Vishal Vivek joins us to get us more on this. Vishal, over to you.
So Osama, we have accessed some exclusive images of Maxar Technologies. So these show the before and after images of the nuclear sites that were sort of damaged by the Israeli strikes. You can see on top of the screen on both the sites, on the left, you have these areas which seem to be not damaged, and on the other side, you have those areas which seem to be totally wiped out. So this is the main nuclear enrichment facility of Iran that was damaged, and this image we've accessed to showcase that the level of precision strikes that Israel conducted was sort of successful when it comes to this enrichment facility. But we have some following images that show that it was not really successful to that extent, such as the images of Fordo, the next nuclear enrichment facility. You can see on your screen, it's totally intact. You don't see any damage. There's building across that have escaped unscathed. And this is the second, probably the second or third largest nuclear enrichment facility in Iran that escaped any damage. And we have one more image of another nuclear facility called Arak, which I'll request my producer to put on screen. This is the image, and this whole facility was almost undamaged. It's about 155 kilometers south of Tehran. So these three main nuclear enrichment facilities were attacked. Out of these three, only Natanz has been incurred some damage. Rest have escaped unscathed. So it remains to be seen whether it really affected the nuclear reactors or not. So far, the reports don't indicate there was some damage to that. But it all boils down to what will happen now, because Israel has promised, Israel has vowed that there will be more strikes in the near future.
Vishal Vivek there. Thank you very much for getting us those fascinating images from Maxar Technologies. Meanwhile, Israel has targeted military installations as well as nuclear facilities in the heart of Iran, as Vishal was mentioning. But where all has Israel hit Iran? My colleague Gauri Dwivedi gets us those details.
Where exactly have those hits taken place? Let's put that out. First, of course, is where all has Israel hit Iran, which started this entire thing on Friday early morning. Those are the exact locations where Israel has targeted Iranian nuclear facilities that have been targeted, that you can see at several of those locations. So it started, and the objective essentially was that Iran is moving ahead with its nuclear capabilities. IAEA has said that there is no confirmation whether it is only for civilian use or whether the possibility of a nuclear military use exists or not. In the backdrop of that, and no progress on nuclear talks, Israel went ahead with those unprecedented attacks, and this map shows exactly where all were those attacks taken place. Let's move ahead and now tell you which are the places where Israel's cities were attacked by Iran. We have that map. Let's put that out as well, that what were the Iranian attacks that came out in retaliation on Israeli cities. That shows the strikes that were made by Iran in retaliation to the unprecedented Israeli strikes on its both military and nuclear establishment. On several of those places, Haifa, an important port town, then there is Tel Aviv, Ashdod, and several others, Jerusalem as well, that has been hit by those multiple Iranian attacks that have taken place in response to the Israeli attacks that started early Friday morning. At this stage, we brought you up to speed with the fact that those attacks are still happening and they continue.
Meanwhile, Iranian state media has claimed that it was successful in raining down some hypersonic missiles in Israeli territory. Several videos shared by Iran, it claims, to show missiles hitting various targets in and around Tel Aviv. So what are these missiles that seem to have pierced one of the most sophisticated air defense systems in the world? My colleague Vishal Vivek explains.
Iran launched a series of hypersonic, so-called hypersonic missiles last night and overnight. We have some visuals here that showcase the damage, the supposed damage done by those so-called hypersonic missiles. You see Iron Dome missiles, Iron Dome defense mechanism being launched by Israel, but some of these hypersonic missiles have evaded those defense systems and landed in Israel. How much damage they've done, that remains to be seen. But we have these visuals released by the state media of Iran claiming to hit hypersonic missiles, claiming to send these hypersonic missiles deep into Israeli territory. We have other visuals coming in from earlier this morning that showcase damage done on the Israeli side. Here is a video that went viral on social media showing a shock wave due to the so-called hypersonic missile that landed in Israeli territory. So as we've been saying, Iran seems to have hypersonic missile for the last 2 years. They've been claiming that. There's no verification on that, but they have clearly mentioned through their state media that they have fired hypersonic missiles and they've been able to penetrate the skies of Israel and also hit the ground. Here is one of the videos that went viral. It shows a shock wave when it hits the ground in Israel. And Iran has had this missile, as I mentioned, for the last 2 years. And why is this hypersonic missile important? The main reason for that is that hypersonic missiles can achieve speeds of up to Mach 5, which is 5 times more than speed of sound. So that gives them that maneuverability that they have been able to evade these Iron Dome systems and land deep into that Israeli territory. So whether or not these were actually hypersonic missiles, that will need to be verified, but they did indeed, these missiles did indeed hit the Israeli territory. The damage done, that will need to be assessed. but Iran was able to rattle Israel to some extent through these series of strikes.
All right. In fact, there are multiple questions that have been asked. What has been the immediate impact? How is the cost of oil getting affected? What could be the possible scenarios as to where could this escalation go from here? Gauri Dwivedi gets us the latest.
I want to first talk about the impact this has, and then we're going to talk about what could be the possible scenarios as to where this conflict is headed. But first up, the immediate impact this has. Of course, the oil market, there's already been a 7% increase in the Brent crude. Immediately, the moment these tensions started flaring, it's been 36 hours. So oil market is the first impact that's likely to be there and also is already being seen. Airspace has been closed. Let's keep moving ahead. The airspace closure, it has taken place in Iran, and also it has happened in Israel, where the airspace has been closed. Next, aviation routes have been disrupted. And this is something most global airlines around the world are facing. That entire region is now seeing disruption in terms of how flight routes have been changed. Next, nuclear talks with Iran are effectively dead. In Oman on Sunday is when the next round, the 6th round of talks were to be held. But in the backdrop of these tensions, they pretty much look dead at this stage. Diplomacy doesn't have any option, any possibility right now. And lastly, well, war fronts from Lebanon to Yemen to Iraq are in the play here. We mentioned, and I spoke about the Iranian proxies earlier, viewers, and all this could be extremely significant, and it will have impact on the US bases as well that are there in the region and American presence. Next, let's talk about the scenarios that could exist. First could be that there could be limited strikes that could continue and some sort of a contained retaliatory pattern may be in place, which means that there will be exchange of fire, but it will not threaten into becoming a full-blown conflict, putting the entire region into turmoil. Next could be the fact that the Iran-backed groups may escalate attacks on Israeli interests, something that one has seen back and forth in several moments in the last year and a half, ever since the Hamas attack in October 2023, that a lot of Iranian proxies did attack Israel. That could intensify further. US troops in Iraq or Syria could be targeted through Iranian proxies. That's very significant. About 2,500 direct troops stay there in Iraq and Syria for America, in addition to the other interests that are there. International pressure could trigger some sort of a ceasefire, could potentially bring in some sort of a mediation. How this will happen remains to be seen. As I said, there's a G7 that's going to take place in about a day or two, and this is likely to dominate the conversation between world leaders. And lastly, more strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities could trigger a war-like situation. And that is something that the world right now is wary of, because it looks like the commentary that's coming in from the Iranian leadership is indicative that they are willing to escalate this further. Lastly, I'm going to put out the comparison between Iran and Israel. Some of this is not reflective of what's actually on ground, but this is what the comparison is in terms of the military personnel. Of course, Iran is a much larger country. Israel would be maybe in the range of about something smaller than Mizoram. That's something the Israeli envoy told us. So the comparisons is not, well, for want of a better word, inadequate. But this is how they look in terms of the ground staff. Let's keep moving ahead. The reservists that are there, much higher for Israel, because there is compulsory conscription there, and that is the reservists that you see for Iran. And as far as the Air Force, that is where the real distinction comes in. Let's put that out as well, the Air Force comparison that exists between Israel and Iran. That is where the distinction is. Israel has one of the most advanced air forces for Iran. A lot of people have been anticipating, and in fact, Israel has also been anticipating the impact will come in from the ballistic missiles, which is where their strengths lie.
Time for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
Israel resumes the airstrikes on Iran. These are fresh wave of attacks from Israel. Meanwhile, the US-Iran nuclear talks have been called off. Mega NDTV exclusive on Shubhanshu Shukla's rocket. The ISRO team has averted a massive disaster. ISRO flags Falcon 9 rocket leak. Leak was fixed. New launch date set for 19th June. The first responder speaks to NDTV. Ambulance driver who took the survivor to the hospital speaks to NDTV. Boeing 787 airplanes under lens after Air India plane crashed. Government has ordered an extended surveillance of the Boeing 787 planes. Air India, in the meanwhile, conducts safety checks on 9 planes. Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu has said that there are 34 in our Indian aircraft fleet. 9 have already been inspected.
After 2 years of the India-Canada tensions, it's the big relationship reboot. Indian Prime Minister heads to the G7 summit. Indispensable India on the global stage. Modi's multilateral momentum. NDTV live from the G7 summit in Canada.
Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad, India's latest aviation disaster. India responds to the tragedy. Facts first, 100% ground reports.
Under this is the tail,
Here, and this is just one of the buildings that will give you an idea of the quantum of loss.
24 to 48 hours is the deadline that has been given for the DNA testing.
Maximum reporters, maximum coverage on NDTV.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
Why was there a hurry? Was it the government that was in a hurry?
I don't want to blame anyone.
Joining us today here in the NDTV newsroom.
Government cannot walk away from this responsibility.
Cricket is region of sort in this country. Would you like to comment on what happened?
What is the condition of the injured at this point? How many people died?
What exactly happened? You have lost your daughter.
In the wake of Pahalgam, all eyes on the Amarnath Yatra. Amidst fear, faith and fortitude. India's biggest fight against terror. NDTV reports on the holy route, the Amarnath spirit.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola? Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Welcome back. Geopolitical tensions spiked at the end of the week as the conflict between Israel and Iran escalated. Crude oil prices rocketed higher on concerns that supplies from the critical West Asia region would be impacted. What are the implications for the global markets and especially for India? Here's a report.
Surging tensions between Israel and Iran sent tremors through the global markets. The first and clearest sign of heightened uncertainty was the surge in crude oil prices. Within hours, the prices of Brent crude, which had remained near $65 to the barrel for weeks, ratcheted higher. As of Saturday, the price was near $74 to the barrel. Higher crude prices mean higher fuel costs and an increase in the cost of freight. The potential negative ramifications for global trade resulted in a sharp fall in US equities too. Iran's airstrikes on Tel Aviv only served to heighten tensions further.
As far as global markets are concerned, one of the biggest impacts is going to be what happens with the oil market, not just Iran's production, but anything that they could strike around them as well. And so there's numerous factors to consider all at once here.
Oil-sensitive companies saw their share prices plunge. Meanwhile, defense-related stocks gained. Analysts say this latest conflict could well become larger, with the United States potentially being dragged in.
If you have a choke point, and that's what the Strait of Hormuz is and Persian Gulf, if you choke it and you can't get ships in or out of there, I know that the US have got battleships and they've got quite an extensive amount of naval ships in that area. So I'm sure that they're moving into that zone to keep it flowing. Now, if it was to get a choke point and you didn't get any movement, that's going to impact, and that would hyperdrive price very dramatically to the upside.
Back home, Indian markets dropped sharply, but recovered on the back of strong buying by domestic institutions. Defense stocks continued their march higher. Experts anticipate the rise in global tensions to lead to near-term volatility. In fact, the volatility index, or the VIX, spiked nearly 8% in trade on Friday.
This geopolitical inflammation has been now going on for a while. I think it's now been almost 4 years since the Russia-Ukraine conflict started post-COVID. And something or the other keeps coming. I think this one looks a little more in terms of the ladder of escalation.
The latest global developments take the attention away from domestic factors like consumption, which is yet to pick up in urban areas. With that in mind, investors are turning cautious and are advocating selective buying in some pockets.
We have been calling out a flattish market mainly because we've been seeing what's happening on the earnings side. I mean, the fundamental side of our corporate earnings. There's not been much growth. The aggressive cuts taken by RBI, I think that was much needed by the economy. We need demand to pick up for things to start looking up. But normally these infusion of liquidity and cut in interest rates, they normally take a couple of quarters before they trickle into the consumption space. So hopefully things will start looking up from the festive season.
2025 so far has been a year filled with volatility, from geopolitical conflicts to tariff turmoil. And with no clarity on the direction of US President Donald Trump's trade policies, that uncertainty is set to continue. NDTV Bureau Report.
And as we have established, the first and the biggest impact of the Israel-Iran war will be on oil prices. As Israel launched its first strike on Iran, the crude prices, it spiked sharply by 12%. The prices did come down later, but an extended conflict in the Middle East, it threatens price hikes and volatility across the globe. Here's a report.
Iran produces and exports about 3% of global oil. As Israel conducted airstrikes on Iran, Brent crude, the international benchmark, spiked sharply by 13% before falling back to the $74 mark. And since 20% of the world's oil moves through the Strait of Hormuz, which is controlled by Iran, experts are worried that supplies of crude could be hit.
a sudden increase and the kind of extent of increase is a broader negative. But I will again emphasize that this $75 level is still below the average crude that was there for FY25. If memory serves, it only sort of is, obviously a stark contrast to where crude prices had slumped to. Supply routes are not really impacted. And as I said, I have no clarity on what will happen over the next few months. I think crude will probably settle back down once again to $70 to $75 levels.
If you look at price, and let's look at there first, it's been up nearly 12% as far as a super spike on crude. You've had WTI really ratcheted up, and so has Brent.
Brent prices settled at a lower level once it became clear that Israel had not hit any of Iran's refineries, but instead had targeted military and nuclear premises. But concerns are far from over. A long drawn-out war, potentially expanding into other parts of the Middle East, could hurt all countries, including India.
Oil price going up is going to be a major factor, especially for emerging country like India, which is a major importer of oil.
Oil Minister Hardeep Singh Puri said that India had enough supply of crude and the supply disruptions due to the conflict could be managed with available stocks.
If the demand triggers are not there, there will be a surplus oil in the market, and therefore the crude price should come back to 65 range by the fourth quarter if the geopolitical tensions do not give some different scenario.
Will this be another intermittent conflict in the volatile region, or will it turn into a larger war between oil-producing nations? Bureau Report, NDTV Profit.
Time now for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
The Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, posted on his social media saying that it is Israeli bombardment of Iranian nuclear sites, Iranian missile strikes in Tel Aviv. Enough escalation, time to stop. Peace and diplomacy must prevail.
Often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups,
stories and surprises, and I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि एनडीए सरकार में हम अगले 10 साल में विकसित भारत के सपने को साकार करके रहेंगे। अटल से तो विकसित भारत की तस्वीर है। प्रेरणा और प्रगति जब एक साथ जुड़ते हैं तो एक नए युग की नींव पड़ती है। भारत माता की
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have 2 credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Jaggi brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
Israel resumes airstrikes on Iran. There's a fresh wave of attacks from Israel. Meanwhile, the US-Iran nuclear talks have been called off. Mega NDTV exclusive on Shubhanshu Shukla's rocket. ISRO team has averted a massive disaster. ISRO flagged the Falcon 9 rocket leak. That leak has been fixed. New launch date is set for 19th of June. As far as the Gujarat plane crash is concerned, the first responder and ambulance driver who took the survivor to the hospital spoke to NDTV. Boeing 787 under the lens after Air India plane crash. The government has ordered an extended surveillance of Boeing 787 planes. Air India conducts safety checks on 9 of its planes. The Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu said that there are 34 in our Indian aircraft fleet. 9 have already been inspected. A high-level team led by Home Secretary set to probe the crash. 3 months deadline has been set for the high-level probe team. The Union Minister Ram Mohan Naidu, he said that black box has been recovered and that it will provide an in-depth insight. Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Osama Shab. It's the third day since the devastating Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad that killed 275 people, including both the passengers and those on ground at the crash site. The question on everyone's mind is still the same. What led to the crash? What went wrong? In fact, the Union Minister, the Aviation Minister, Ram Mohan Naidu, he has reviewed the progress of the probe and has said that security and safety mechanisms are being enhanced in the wake of that crash.
We are going to form another high-level committee before. And immediately we have constituted the committee also yesterday. The Home Secretary is going to be the chairman of the committee. Secretary Ministry of Civil Aviation, Additional Secretary from MHA, one representative from the state of Gujarat where the incident actually happened, representative from State Disaster Response Authority, Government of Gujarat, Police Commissioner Ahmedabad, DG Inspection and Safety from the Indian Air Force, DG BCAS, which is the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, DG DGCA, Special Director from IB, and Director from the Directorate of Forensic Sciences Services. So like you see, the composition of the high-level committee involves people from various backgrounds, and we have put a time limit of 3 months for them to sit down, talk to various stakeholders, and involve and discuss with any other important expert that is necessary as per their investigation.
I've spent almost 2 days continuously there since the time I arrived in Ahmedabad at the crash site. And just to give you a sense, we don't realize the magnitude of what an aircraft debris looks like, because this was a huge aircraft. And even at the crash site, from the tail that we have been showing, that unfortunately became the very picture of this entire accident, about 600 to 700 meters from that tail, there are 5 to 6 buildings, 4 buildings facing in front, 2 behind, apart from the mess and 1 more building adjoining to it. All that area is the part of the debris. So it is going to take time. Why the tail was only taken, down from the place where it was lodged in, because earlier, as we reported, unfortunately, there was 1 more body which was found today. In fact, my guess is that the clearing of the body or the remains of those who were on board and on ground, I think we will always be about 99% because of the intense inferno and the heat that this plane, which was carrying hundreds of gallons of that aviation fuel, burned for many, many hours. So it is going to be a tedious task. Also remember that, yes, the vital clue is the flight data recorder, but every part of that aircraft, even if it is in burn condition, will have to be taken back for investigation for experts to, in fact, weigh in. So all that has to be cleared section by section. It will take another 24 hours, if nothing less, for that entire debris to be cleared up from that, in that context.
Meanwhile, a devastating plane crash that shattered countless dreams has sent shockwaves across the nation. Just moments after the tragedy struck, help arrived, and leading the charge was the 108 ambulance service. In a remarkable twist, the ambulance driver, who happened to be having lunch at the same hostel where the aircraft crashed, became the first responder. Within minutes, he rushed to the site, initiating the rescue. My colleague Ravish Ranjan spoke exclusively with the 108 ambulance service manager and the heroic driver. Watch this gripping account of bravery and humanity.
12 तारीख को जो विमान का हादसा अहमदाबाद में हुआ, उसमें सबसे बड़ी जो भूमिका थी वो एम्बुलेंस 108 नंबर की थी, जो गुजरात की सरकारी एम्बुलेंस सर्विस है। सबसे पहले उस विमान हादसे का NDTV पर एक्सक्लूसिव सतिंदर सिंह जी हैं, जिन्होंने विमान हादसे की सबसे पहली कॉल एम्बुलेंस की। सतिंदर सिंह जी ने जितेंद्र शाही जी को की थी, और क्या उसमें कहा जितेंद्र शाही जी हमें सुनवाएंगे। जो कॉल रिकॉर्डिंग होती है, ये सतिंदर सिंह जी उसी जो मेडिकल का कैंपस है उसके ठीक सामने बैठे हुए थे, और जैसे ही ये विमान गिरा सबसे पहले इन्होंने देखा और सुनाया क्या, शाही जी को क्या फ़ोन किया, ये देखिए, ये सुनिए।
सिविल के पास बहुत सारी आग लगी है। सिविल के पास? हाँ, क्या था? प्लेन क्रैश हुआ, कुछ हुआ पता नहीं। हाँ, ओके। वहाँ से टीम को टीएल को बोल के साहब फायर ब्रिगेड भेजे ना जल्दी। हाँ भिजवाता हाँ जी।
ये 1:41 पर सबसे पहली कॉल 108 नंबर को जाती है। सतेंद्र सिंह जी, आपने क्या देखा था उस वक्त 1:41 पर?
सर मेरा ऑफिस 1200 बेड गेट नंबर 8 पे है। हाँ। हम लोग मेरी टीम के साथ में खाना खा रहे थे, तो खाना खाते हुए तो एक साउंड सुनाई दिया, तो हमने बाहर आकर देखा तो पीछे ब्लैक स्मोक निकल रहा था। तो मैं मेरी टीम को इन्फॉर्म किया कि आप जल्दी एम्बुलेंस लेकर वहाँ पहुँचो। मैं दौड़ के वहाँ पहुँचा तो देखा कि वहाँ पे पूरा आग लगी हुई थी। अच्छा। और एक सिक्योरिटी गार्ड वाला पहले पर्सन जो बाहर निकला तो पूरा जला हुआ था आधा। अच्छा। तो अपनी जो एम्बुलेंस वहाँ पहुँची तो उसमें बैठाकर उनको सिविल पहुँचाया।
सबसे पहले सतेंद्र सिंह जी ने जितेंद्र शाही जी को फ़ोन किया। जितेंद्र साहब, इनका जब फ़ोन आया पहला रिस्पॉन्ड क्या हुआ कि आपको लगा कि विमान हादसा है?
मैं जो 108 सेंटर का हेड ऑफिस है अहमदाबाद, वो सेंटर में बैठा हुआ था। सडनली इनका कॉल आया 1:41 पे, जो आपने रिकॉर्डिंग सुना कि सर ऐसा कुछ हुआ। तो हमको खुद पहले विश्वास ही नहीं हुआ कि क्या हुआ है। प्लेन क्रैश हुआ है, इन्होंने फिर बताया, हम शायद समझे कि मिलिट्री जोन है, चाहे यहाँ पे कुछ दूसरा कुछ क्रैश ब्रेश हुआ या कोई कुछ चीज़ फटा हो। बाद में मैं दौड़ के भागा, हमारे जो इमरजेंसी रिस्पॉन्स सेंटर का कॉल सेंटर था उसमें तुरंत ही कि भाई कुछ बड़ा हुआ है। हमने एम्बुलेंसेस को डिस्पैच दिया, कंसर्न जो एजेंसीज है फायर उनको सबको इन्फॉर्म कराया। फिर विदिन मिनट्स दूसरे कॉल सब आना शुरू हो गया कि भाई हुआ है ना, कंफर्म हुआ कि भाई पैसेंजर प्लेन फटा है। विदिन मिनट्स हमने 15 से 20 मिनट में दूसरी 20 एम्बुलेंस की व्यवस्था की और पहली 25 एम्बुलेंस रेस्क्यू में लग गई और फायर की गाड़ी आ गई। एनडीआरएफ की टीम 8 से 10 मिनट में सारी टीम दूसरी यहाँ पे आ गई। और हमने जो पहले जो लोकल थे या वहाँ पे जो जिसको चोट बोट लगी या जो हॉस्टल के बच्चे जो भाग के आए स्मोक के कारण, उनको पहले जो 15-20 जन है उनको फटाफट एम्बुलेंस में शिफ्ट करवाया।
Among the many families who lost their lives in this horrific tragedy is that of Keenal Mistry. As he dropped off his only daughter at Ahmedabad airport, Suraj Mistry seized the opportunity to take that one final family selfie before Keenal Mistry went back to London. Keenal Mistry, a 24-year-old, she had laughed lovingly at her father as he made her promise that they would meet again soon. He had just got married. She had just got married and moved to London last year, where she worked as a choreographer and had also set up a food business out of her own kitchen.
In fact, what we have been told till now is 270 plus bodies have come to the civil hospital after that horrific crash. Apart from those who were on board the flight and those who were living in the hostel or working in and around the hostel. Now, the family member from Anand, they have come all the way to civil hospital over here. आप लोग आपके फैमिली से कौन था, क्या स्टोरी?
मेरी भतीजी थी आनंद से और वो लंदन जाने वाली थी। 1 मंथ पहले आई थी वो इधर, और तीत का उसका ऑपरेशन दांत बैठाने का था, उसके लिए वो आई थी। उसकी 7 तारीख को जाने की टिकट थी, लेकिन वो लेटर नहीं आया, उसकी वजह से हमने 12 तारीख की टिकट करवाई। और हम लोग जैसे ही उसको छोड़ के गए, प्लेन में बिठाया, हम लोग आनंद पहुंच रहे थे, तुरंत फ़ोन आया हम पे, प्लेन क्रैश हो गया है। और हम लोग यू टर्न लगा के हम लोग वापस अहमदाबाद आ गए। अभी उधर से 2 दिन से हम लोग इधर उधर घूमते हैं। DNA टेस्ट दे दिया है, अब वो बोल रहे हैं तुम्हारा नंबर आएगा तब तुमको बुलाएंगे।
क्यों वो लंदन से आई थी, वहाँ पढ़ती हैं वो?
नहीं, वो जॉब करने गई थी, वर्क परमिट पे गई थी।
जॉब करती है?
हाँ, कुक का।
तो यहाँ पर उनका जो आप बोल रहे हैं दांत का ऑपरेशन था?
हाँ, दांत का 1 साल पहले उसका एक्सीडेंट हुआ था, तो सारे दांत गिर गए थे, तो उसका ऑपरेशन करवाने वो आई थी। जब बॉन बनने का तब बॉन नहीं बना था, इसलिए डॉक्टर ने बोला 10 महीने बाद आएगी तब उसका टीथ सब बिठाएंगे। तो सब ऑपरेशन सब कंप्लीट हो गया, तो 7 तारीख को वापस जाने वाली थी।
फैमिली में कौन कौन है अभी और किसने DNA टेस्ट दिया है और डॉक्टर्स ने क्या रिस्पॉन्स दिया?
मेरे भाभी का DNA टेस्ट लिया है और डॉक्टर का रिस्पॉन्स है, DNA टेस्ट लिया है, आपको कॉल आएगा, आप कॉल आए तब सब डॉक्यूमेंट लेके आ जाने का।
कोई स्पेसिफिक डेट या
कुछ नहीं?
आप फोटो है आप उनकी, अगर आप दिखा पाए तो?
देखा है, 24 ईयर्स की थी मेरी भतीजी।
कब से जॉब कर रही थी वो?
1 ईयर्स।
शी वॉज देयर इन लंदन फॉर एटलीस्ट 1 ईयर। इसके अलावा और आप लोग यहाँ पर जब आए तो किस तरीके का यहाँ पर डॉक्टर्स ने बताया? सो दैट्स द फैमिली इन फैक्ट।
भाभी है मेरे,
क्या नाम है?
सुरेश भाई है इसका नाम, ये हीरल बहन है और उनकी लड़की। ये लास्ट सेल्फी है जो एयरपोर्ट पे छोड़ के गए 11:30 बजे की।
एनी डिमांड्स फ्रॉम द अथॉरिटी, कुछ आप बोलना चाहेंगे कि क्या कुछ होना चाहिए, ऐसी घटनाएं ना हो?
हम तो बोलना चाहेंगे प्लेन की जांच करवाए पहले तो। अभी उड़ान भरा नहीं है उसने कि 2 मिनट पे वो प्लेन क्रैश हो जाता है, उड़ भी नहीं पाता। उसकी वजह क्या है कि दोनों इंजन बंद कैसे हो गए, काम क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं। और इससे पहले न्यूज़ में भी कई बता रहे कि एयर इंडिया की फ़्लाइट में दिक्कत है, दिल्ली में भी दिक्कत हुआ था वो फ्लाइट में बोल रहे हैं। तो फिर चेकिंग हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ है कि उड़ान ऐसे ही भरवाई है उसकी कि प्लेन उड़ भी नहीं पाया, 2 मिनट उड़ा है तो फिर ऐसे ही डायरेक्ट बैठ जाता है, उसका मतलब क्या है।
In fact, another such story is that of Manisha Thapa, a 27-year-old flight attendant from Patna. She was among the 274 people who lost their lives when Air India flight crashed. This tragedy has plunged her family and neighbors into deep mourning. Manisha, who served as a cabin crew member on the flight, was known for her academic brilliance and a vibrant personality. She was a graduate of St. Xavier's College, Patna. She completed her bachelor's in business economics from 2014 to 2017. In fact, the college, it held condolences meet and planted a tree at the campus in remembrance of Manisha.
मनीषा थापा जो कि अहमदाबाद से उड़ने वाली एयर इंडिया के प्लेन में केबिन क्रू थी, उनकी मौत उस विमान हादसे में हो गई। और आज सेंट ज़ेवियर कॉलेज में यहाँ पर उनके नाम पर जो है वृक्षारोपण किया जा रहा है। सभी कॉलेज के मेंबर्स, कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल, कॉलेज के फैकल्टी मेंबर्स और स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं और उनके नाम पर आप देखिए पेड़ लगाया गया है उनकी याद में, रिमेंबरिंग मनीषा थापा बाय सेंट ज़ेवियर कॉलेज। आप समझ सकते हैं उस घटना में लगभग 242 लोगों की मौत हो गई और कुल आंकड़ा इस वक्त 275 के आसपास पहुंच चुका है। कितना दर्दनाक हादसा होगा आप समझ सकते हैं। इस वक्त कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल है, उनसे हम बात करेंगे कि कितना मुश्किल वक्त है। फादर, आज रिमेम्बरेंस में आप लोगों ने पेड़ लगाया है, क्या कहेंगे जिस तरीके से ये घटना हुई है?
ये हम लोगों के लिए दुख की खबर है, क्योंकि एक अच्छे इंसान को हमारे परिवार से खोना हम लोगों के लिए बहुत दुख हुआ है और सारा ज़ेवियर परिवार इस खबर सुनकर बहुत दुख हुआ है।
कैसी स्टूडेंट थी मनीषा? अगर बात करें तो एकेडमिक्स में
हमेशा वो मेरिटोरियस स्टूडेंट रही है और सभी एक्टिविटीज़ में घुल मिल के भाग लेती थी और सभी स्टूडेंट, सभी स्टाफ के साथ उनका अच्छा व्यवहार था। मैं उनको हमेशा एक आदर्श व्यक्ति के रूप में, एक आदर्श स्टूडेंट के रूप में देखा करता था।
खासतौर से देखिए उनकी याद में पेड़ भी लगाया गया है और भी कॉलेज के कई सारे प्रोफेसर्स हैं, टीचर्स हैं, प्रोफेसर्स हैं, बात करेंगे। मैम, क्या कहेंगे? काफ़ी भावुक पल है एज ए स्टूडेंट खो देना इस कॉलेज के, आप लोगों ने पढ़ाया भी है। क्या कहना चाहेंगे मनीषा के बारे में?
कहने के लिए शब्द नहीं है। मनीषा हमारे बीच नहीं है, भरोसा नहीं होता है और हमारे बीच हमेशा रहेगी। वो भले फिजिकली प्रेजेंट नहीं है, लेकिन वो एक इंस्पिरेशन के रूप में, एक रोल मॉडल के रूप में हमारे अलुमनाई, हमारे बच्चों, हमारे टीचर्स, हमारे स्टाफ सब के बीच में रहेगी। वो बहुत हार्ड वर्किंग, बहुत कमिटेड, ऑनेस्ट, कोलैबोरेटिव, स्माइलिंग फेस, क्या कहें उसके बारे में, कहने के लिए शब्द पर्याप्त नहीं है। हमारी बेटी नहीं है, बेटी होती तो वैसे ही बेटी उम्मीद करते हैं। तो ये बच्चे हमारे लिए कहे स्टूडेंट नहीं थे, ज़ेवियर परिवार का एक हिस्सा थे। ज़ेवियर परिवार ने एक बच्चा खो दिया है, बहुत मर्माहत है, हम लोग शब्दों में बयां नहीं कर सकते हैं।
Now on to a big NDTV exclusive on the Axiom mission to space, the timely detection of a crack in an oxidizer line in the first stage of the Falcon 9 rocket, which will take 4 astronauts, including India's Shubhanshu Shukla, to the International Space Station, averted a major disaster. The fault was observed following a demand for due diligence from the Indian Space Research Organization chairman, Dr. V. Narayan. And despite admitting to a few leaks, the SpaceX team decided to launch the ailing rocket on the 11th of June. However, after learning of that leak, the ISRO chief, Dr. Narayanan, strongly disagreed with the decision and demanded full correction with validation by proper tests, including low temperature leak tests. His insistence on due diligence to rectify the leak forced the SpaceX team to call off the launch on the 11th of June. NDTV's Pallav Bagla has all the details.
If all goes well, India's astronaut or Gaganyatri, Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla, will now fly to the International Space Station on June 19th. He will fly on a Falcon 9 and a Crew Dragon, which will be launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The flight for Group Captain Shukla has been delayed many times. Initially, the reasons given were weather, and then there was a technical glitch on the rocket. It now transpires that the ISRO chief, Dr. V. Narayanan, played a critical role in making sure that safety first and safety always prevailed on the Falcon 9 launch. The SpaceX team had declared that there was a leak of liquid oxygen on the Falcon 9 first stage and they were going to fix it. But Dr. V. Narayanan and the 13-member ISRO team at the Kennedy Space Center intervened and said that the Band-Aid-like solution which was being offered by SpaceX on the Falcon 9 leak of the oxygen was not acceptable to them. And finally, when the SpaceX team went back to look at the rocket, they finally found a crack, a weld crack in the oxygen line. It was at the insistence of Dr. V. Narayanan, who is himself a specialist on liquid oxygen engines, as he is a cryogenic engine specialist. He weighed in very heavily and made sure that the rocket was safe for travel to space only after the line was changed and proper validation was done. Dr. Narayanan told me that if the rocket had lifted off with the crack, then due to the vibration which happens at liftoff, there was a possibility that the leak and the crack would have developed into a full-fledged break and it would have resulted in a fireball. So, the team at ISRO, stationed at the Kennedy Space Center, prevailed on the SpaceX and the Axiom Space teams to make sure that the Falcon 9 rocket is safe, and only now, when they are satisfied that the necessary repairs have been carried out and the validation done, that the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket with Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla and 3 other astronauts, which is an American, a Polish national and a Hungarian national, will now lift off from pad 39A and the Kennedy Space Center on June 19th. But yes, we have to wait and watch for what is the weather like on that day. So repeated delays for the liftoff of Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla, but hopefully this time everything will go well and the liftoff and the splashdown for Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla would be ideal. If he goes into space, he will become the second astronaut after Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma went to space in 1984. At the International Space Station, Group Captain Shukla will participate in 7 India-specific experiments. But for all of that, first the liftoff has to be normal and on opportune time. So the intervention of ISRO saved the Falcon 9 rocket and also the lives of the astronauts.
Time for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you.
And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the
Welcome back. The situation in the Middle East is getting tense by the minute after Israel's unprecedented strikes crippled Iran's nuclear and military might. A retaliatory firestorm has now engulfed the region. Tehran and Tel Aviv, they are now battlegrounds, rocked by a fresh barrage of missiles and drones. Casualties have mounted on both the sides, with dozens killed and hundreds wounded. And the warnings grow even more dire. Tehran will burn. This is what Israel has declared, while Iran has threatened to hit UK, US and France military bases if they defend Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just a short while ago issued a threat saying, and I quote this, "In the very near future, you will see Israeli Air Force jets over the skies of Tehran." Meanwhile, the US-Iran nuclear talks, which were to be held in Oman, they have been called off.
אזרחי ישראל, אני גאה בכם. אני גאה בכושר העמידה שלכם. אני גאה ברוח שלכם. ודווקא כשיש פגיעות בעורף, אתם מניפים את הדגל. אתם לא נכנעים. לצערי היו גם 3 אבדות אתמול של אזרחים יקרים שנהרגו בהתקפות הללו. אני משתתף בצער המשפחות, ואני קורא לכם שוב, הישמעו להנחיות פיקוד העורף, הן מצילות חיים.
شهادت سرداران و دانشمندان عزیز که البته برای همه سنگین است و تعدادی از مردم غیر نظامی رو به ملت ایران به خانواده های اونها تبریک و تسلیت عرض میکنم. و اما مطلبی که مایل بودم با ملت عزیزمون در میان بذارم اینه که رژیم صهیونیستی اشتباه بزرگی کرد، خطای بزرگی کرد، غلطی کرد و عواقب او رو بیچاره خواهد کرد به توفیق الهی. ملت ایران از خون شهدای گرانقدر نخواهد گذشت، از تجاوز با آسمان کشورش صرف نظر نخواهد کرد.
24 hours after Israel began its massive attack against Iranian military and nuclear infrastructure, Iran responded. They sent over 200 drones and ballistic missiles into central Israel, into residential neighborhoods like this one near Tel Aviv. 3 people have been killed and over 80 injured, and a 3-month-old baby was pulled from the rubble of the destruction behind me. The Israeli defense minister said that if Iran continues to target Israeli civilian neighborhoods, Tehran will burn. Ricky Rosen reporting from Central Israel.
The all-important G7 summit is around the corner, with Donald Trump's tariffs one of the main talking points. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he has been invited by the host Canada to attend this meeting. The Prime Minister will soon be on his way to the country. Focus will also be on a new chapter in India-Canada ties. Here's a report.
Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something.
From an annexation threat,
I might go up with that tariff in the not-too-distant future,
to punishing tariffs that threaten to cripple the Canadian economy. US President Donald Trump has deployed an economic shock and awe strategy against America's former beloved neighbor. But under a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and on their soil, Canada would like to respond at the G7 summit.
We're focused on the issues. We're still facing and intensifying unjustified tariffs from our largest trading partner. And the best way to respond to that is to respond at home, to build strength at home.
Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me?
These two men will meet during the G7 summit after 2 years of frosty ties between New Delhi and Ottawa.
Ready to build Canada strong.
Prime Minister Carney extended an invitation to India a week ahead of the G7 summit in Canada. Prime Minister Modi accepted the invite, and what followed was Carney defending his decision in the face of mounting scrutiny from both domestic critics and international observers.
Fifth largest economy in the world, effectively the most populous country in the world, central to a number of those supply chains, at the heart of a number of those supply chains, so it makes sense.
India's global economic stature is not the only reason why it will be at G7. For host Canada, mending ties with India is critical right now. Facing betrayal from the United States, Canada is looking to diversify its trade relationships. India is one of the 3 big economies of the region, apart from China and Japan. Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy of 2022 highlighted the significance of India in the world's fastest-growing region. Indo-Pacific accounts for more than 1/3 of the global economic activity and is projected to represent half of the world's GDP by 2040.
On to some sports news. In a thrilling finale, South Africa finally broke the trophy jinx and lifted the World Test Championship title, defeating Australia at Lord's. The crowd erupted in joy as the Proteas celebrated their historic win, ending Australia's challenge and etching their name on that coveted trophy. Aiden Markram, he came up with the innings of his lifetime, a match-winning century. The captain, Temba Bavuma, despite his hamstring injury, he stood tall. South Africa, they finally broke their trophy jinx. They are the world champions.
A 27-year wait ends for South Africa as they finally get their hands on an ICC senior trophy under Temba Bavuma, who remains
That's all we have for you. Keep watching NDTV for more news and updates.
After 2 years of the India-Canada tensions, it's the big relationship reboot. Indian Prime Minister heads to the G7 summit. Indispensable India on the global stage. Modi's multilateral momentum. NDTV live from the G7 summit in Canada.
Hello and welcome to the NDTV Auto Show. I'm your host Mugdha Mishra. Indian auto sector is always buzzing with action. Either it's a new product launch or a new facelift, something or the other is happening all the time. But it has been a while that a new company has entered Indian markets. And now that's going to change. Yes, Vietnamese car maker VinFast is finally entering India, and Anirban Mitra travelled all the way to Vietnam to drive their VF6.
This is their VF6, and this can be considered a rival to the likes of Creta, Windsor, Nexon, Curve and all the electric avatars that you get. This spans 4.2 meters in length और जो रेंज है वो लगभग 440 किलोमीटर का है। थोड़ा सा हटके डिज़ाइन लैंग्वेज है, बहुत ज़्यादा कर्व्स एंड क्रीजेस आपको दिखेंगे, एंगुलर एलिमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा है, शार्पनेस की कमी आपको थोड़ी सी महसूस होगी, बट देन इट्स अ न्यू डिज़ाइन लैंग्वेज दैट्स अबाउट टू एंटर आवर मार्केट. राइड्स ऑन मैसिव 18-inch alloy wheels. अगर ग्राउंड क्लियरेंस की बात करें तो 190 मिलीमीटर्स बॉल पार्क फिगर क्रेटा के अराउंड आपको फील होगी. इलेक्ट्रिक टेलगेट VF6 के साथ नहीं है, लेकिन द बूट स्पेस इज क्वाइट यूजेबल. 423 liters, no start stop button as you hop inside the cabin. आप 2 बार ब्रेक दबाइए, गाड़ी अपने आप स्टार्ट हो जाएगी. ऑल ब्लैक कैबिन रखा गया है, वीगन मटेरियल से फिनिश किया गया है सीट. प्लेंटी ऑफ सॉफ्ट टच मटेरियल. यू गेट अ सनरूफ. दिस इज एज टू एज massive panoramic screen, however fixed type glass का इस्तेमाल हो रहा है. I would have liked अगर इसके ऊपर एक फिल्म भी कंपनी कंसिडर करती. Onto the second row, I find it spacious, but still I'll pinpoint what feels lacking here. A, the under thigh support is not all that good, especially the length of the seat could have been slightly better, or probably a little bit of squab, a little bit of heightened area on the rear seat could have made it an even more pleasant experience. You have a couple of headrests. These are adjustable in nature. The headroom will never be a problem if you are till 6'2", and also there is good amount of space to move around your legs. दोस्तों इस गाड़ी का जो आकार है roughly 4.2 मीटर, जो बैटरी पैक दिया गया है लिटिल अंडर 60 किलोवाट आवर, जिस टाइप की पावर परफॉर्मेंस फिगर इस गाड़ी की है, इट कैन बी कंसिडर्ड एज अ क्रेटा, विंसर, नेक्सॉन, कर्व. मतलब 4 मीटर से 4.3 मीटर का जो सेगमेंट है, सारी गाड़ियाँ टक्कर देंगी विनफास्ट के VF6 को. डोमेस्टिक मार्केट मतलब वियतनामीज मार्केट में इस गाड़ी की अगर इंडियन करेंसी में हम कन्वर्ट करें तो रफली 22-23 लाख से शुरू होती है. दिस विल कम टू इंडिया मोर इनटू असेंबली फॉर्म, मतलब CKD या फिर SKD रूट से भारतीय बाजार में आएगी. तो मेरा अनुमान है लगभग 26-27 लाख की कीमत से शुरू हो सकती है विनफास्ट की VF6. बैटरी रेंज की बात कर लें तो ये लगभग प्रॉमिस करती है आपको 440 किलोमीटर क्लेम्ड. रियल लाइफ में आप 350 किलोमीटर मान के चल सकते हैं. और यहाँ पे जो आउटपुट है सिंगल मोटर से, दैट इज़ 201 हॉर्स पावर और 310 न्यूटन मीटर का पीक टॉर्क. स्ट्रेट लाइन एक्सेलरेशन की बात करें तो 0 से 100 की रफ्तार कंपनी क्लेम करती है लगभग 8.9 सेकेंड में, विच इज़ क्वाइट फास्ट फॉर अ कार ऑफ दिस सेगमेंट. और आपको वो स्पोर्ट मोड में ज़रूर फील होगा. हालांकि स्पोर्ट मोड में स्टीयरिंग का वेट भी काफ़ी अच्छा है. However, there is a little bit of shudder on the steering wheel. थोड़ा सा vibrations है. Could be a thing with this exact unit, लेकिन थोड़ा सा एक vibration damping आपको जरूर steering wheel पे feel होगा. 3 आपको ड्राइव मोड्स दिख जाते हैं, स्पोर्ट, इको एंड 1 नॉर्मल. काफ़ी प्रेडिक्टेबल ड्राइव है इन इको एंड नॉर्मल मोड. स्पोर्ट मोड में थोड़ी सी ज़रूर फील होती है, ये आपको चलाने में मज़ेदार लगेगी, बट दैट विल बी एट द एक्सपेंस ऑफ सम रेंज. 3 रीजन मोड्स भी आपको मिल जाते हैं, जहाँ पे आप सिंगल पेडल ड्राइविंग करना चाहते हैं. अगर बम्पर टू बम्पर ट्रैफिक में थोड़ा आपको बैटरी रिप्लेनिश करना है तो आप ज़रूर चलाइए. आप फुल रीजन सेटिंग में चला सकते हैं और वहाँ पे आपको थोड़ा सा फील होगा कि द रीजन ब्रेकिंग इज़ क्वाइट स्ट्रॉन्ग येट प्रेडिक्टेबल. ड्राइवर सीट जो है ये काफ़ी नीट है, लेकिन थोड़ा सा अलग है यूजुअली जो गाड़ियाँ हम देखते हैं. लार्जली बिकॉज यू डोंट हैव अ ड्राइवर्स डिस्प्ले राइट इन फ्रंट. ड्राइवर्स डिस्प्ले की जगह कंपनी ने HUD लगा रखा है, विच इज कॉल्ड अ हेड अप डिस्प्ले. सारे फीचर्स आपको स्क्रीन पे यहाँ पे दिख जाएंगे. एंड दिस ह्यूज टच स्क्रीन 12.9 इंच, दिस इज स्लाइटली टिल्टेड टूवर्ड्स द ड्राइवर. मतलब काफ़ी ड्राइवर फोकस्ड केबिन से माना जा सकता है. इट्स क्वाइट स्टेबल एट ट्रिपल डिजिट स्पीड्स. 80-90 की स्पीड पे गाड़ी आपको अच्छे पकड़ के साथ चलती दिखाई पड़ेगी ऑन टारमैक. सेफ्टी की बात करें तो 7 एयरबैग्स आपको मिल जाते हैं. ADAS के फीचर्स कुछ मिलेंगे, मोस्टली लेवल 1 एडवांस ड्राइवर असिस्टेंट सिस्टम के कुछ फीचर्स आपको मिल जाएंगे विद द VF6 और इसके साथ VF7 को भारतीय बाजार में कुछ ही महीनों के अंदर लॉन्च कर दिया जाएगा. द कंपनी इज टारगेटिंग द फेस्टिव पीरियड, जब से ये मतलब फुल स्विंग में भारत में बिकना शुरू हो जाएगी. और मेरा माने तो कीमतें VF6 के लिए कहीं भी 25 से 26 लाख के बीच हो सकती है. इफ़ दे ब्रिंग सब्सक्रिप्शन मॉडल, मतलब बैटरी का अगर रेंटल सब्सक्रिप्शन मॉडल वो लाते हैं, जो कुछ वेरिएंट्स में कुछ गाड़ियों में वो वियतनाम में बेचते हैं, देन द प्राइसेस विल गो डाउन रफली 21-22 लाख रुपीज़. लेकिन ओवरऑल इट लुक्स अ प्रॉमिसिंग प्रोडक्ट. कितना विनफास्ट ग्रुप इंडिया में इम्पैक्ट बना सकती है, कितना एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी इस ब्रांड को मिलता है, दैट इज समथिंग दैट वी हैव टू वेट एंड वॉच.
Tata Motors has recently launched the Harrier EV in the Indian market. प्राइसेस शुरू होते हैं 21,49,000 रुपए से और लॉन्च के समय पर टाटा मोटर्स ने इसके क्वाड व्हील ड्राइव सेटअप को लेकर काफ़ी बड़े दावे किए थे. 65 और 75 किलोवाट आवर के बैटरी पैक ऑप्शंस मिल जाते हैं और आपको ड्यूअल मोटर सेटअप मिलता है जो कि 313 हॉर्स पावर और लगभग 504 न्यूटन मीटर का मैक्स टॉर्क बनाता है. 0 to 100 6.3 सेकेंड्स के टाइम में गाड़ी कर लेती है. लेकिन ऑफ रोड कैपेबिलिटीज इसकी कितनी खास है वो आज हम यहाँ जानेंगे एट द टाटा हैरियर EVs क्वाड डे. अब ये हैरियर ईवी एक 34 डिग्री के अपहिल इंक्लाइन के ऊपर गई है। अब टाटा मोटर्स ने अपने टीवी कमर्शियल्स में भी दिखाया है हाउ केपेबल द हैरियर ईवी इज। उसने एलिफेंट हिल क्लाइम किया है एंड अ सिमिलर डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन इज हैपनिंग हियर ऑन दिस सेक्शन। नाउ दिस इज अ सेक्शन ऑफ रॉक बेड। अब हैरियर ईवी में आपको क्रॉल कंट्रोल फीचर मिल जाता है जिसमें आप एक मिनिमम लिमिट 6 km/h की सेट कर सकते हैं और उसी क्रॉल कंट्रोल फीचर के साथ ये गाड़ी काफ़ी आराम से इस रॉक बेड को क्रॉस करते हुए जा रही है। सो अब हैरियर ईवी में आपको 6 ऑफ रोड मोड्स मिल जाते हैं और इस एक्सल ट्विस्टर सेक्शन पे इस गाड़ी को सहूलियत से निकालने के लिए आपको मड एंड रट मोड में आना पड़ेगा। एंड ऑल्सो अनदर ग्रेट थिंग अबाउट द हैरियर ईवी इज इट्स सस्पेंशन आर्टिकुलेशन and the clever electronic traction control, because of which it could manage to complete this obstacle with ease. So मेरे पीछे आप देख पाएंगे एक सैंड पिट है। क्यों? क्योंकि हैरियर ईवी में आपको सैंड मोड मिल जाता है and the car manages to crawl out of this sand pit with ease because of 504 Newton meters of max torque. What that means? A lot of momentum you can carry. In fact, even at low speeds, the car makes sure that it is managing to not get stuck. Now on this obstacle, we are testing the side incline possibilities for the Tata Harrier EV. अब यहाँ पर एक बड़ी बात सामने आती है कि गाड़ी में एक बड़ा बैटरी पैक गाड़ी के नीचे लगा हुआ है, तो लोअर सेंटर ऑफ ग्रेविटी की वजह से आप ज़्यादा तीखे साइड इंक्लाइन एंगल्स अटेम्प्ट कर सकते हैं। Now this is the last and the scariest obstacle of the day. So first you get a set of stairs. उसके बाद आप एक tight left turn लेते हो, then एक और tight left turn to come down that slippery slope. अब Harrier EV में आपको 2 फीचर्स मिलते हैं। पहला ट्रांसपेरेंट चैसी, दूसरा 540 डिग्री ऑफ कैमरा। And what that does, it helps you place your wheels right in place while attempting this obstacle. अब ओवरऑल हैरियर ईवी के साथ हमारा ऑफ-रोडिंग एक्सपीरियंस कैसा रहा? वेल आई थिंक अगर एक अच्छे 80 टायर्स का सेट हमें मिल जाता तो ऑफ-रोडिंग एक्सपीरियंस थोड़ा और ज़्यादा स्मूथ हो जाता, बट कंसिडरिंग द काइंड ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स दैट हैरियर गेट्स एंड अ क्लेवर ट्रैक्शन कंट्रोल सिस्टम, इट वाज एबल टू गो स्मूथली ओवर ऑल ऑब्स्टेकल्स। इनफैक्ट जो 34 डिग्री अपहिल इंक्लाइन स्लोप था उस पर मुझे लगा था कि शायद हैरियर ईवी डिसअपॉइंट करेगी, but it managed to do its job really well.
Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad, India's latest aviation disaster. India responds to the tragedy. Facts first, 100% ground reports.
Under this is the tail,
Here, and this is just one of the buildings that will give you an idea of the quantum of loss.
24 to 48 hours is the deadline that has been given for the DNA testing.
Maximum reporters, maximum coverage on NDTV.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you. So talking of things that are super nice on the Kia Ceros, first up is this display setup. So there are total of 3 screens, 30-inch of display is what you are getting. सबसे पहले आपको एक 12.3 इंच का इंस्ट्रूमेंट क्लस्टर मिल जाता है, उसके बाद आपको मिलती है एक 5.5 इंच की क्लाइमेट कंट्रोल डिस्प्ले एंड देन यू हैव अ 12.3 इंचेस ऑफ इंफोटेनमेंट यूनिट। अच्छी बात यह है that finally there is a wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay compatibility on a top spec Kia. That means no cables whatsoever. मगर जो ये climate control unit है, this falls right behind the steering wheel, so at times it becomes slightly tough to operate the climate control functions through the display. Nonetheless, आपको major functions के लिए यहाँ पर buttons भी मिल जाते हैं। Now another good thing about the Kia Ceros's cabin is its sound system. So you're getting an 8-speaker sound system, and if you are a bass head, you will certainly love it. Now Ceros इज़ अ कंफर्टेबल डेली ड्राइवर। अगर आपको सोनेट की राइड स्टिफ लगती थी तो सिरोस की राइड क्वालिटी आपका दिल जीत लेगी। The suspension on the Syros is set up in a more comfortable format. यहाँ पर आपको बहुत ज़्यादा जर्क्स महसूस नहीं होते हैं और गाड़ी एक्सपेंशन जॉइंट्स, रिपल्स और बैड रोड्स का काफ़ी डट के सामना करती है। यानी कि डेली ड्राइविंग में भी आपको ये गाड़ी सोनेट के मुकाबले काफ़ी ज़्यादा कंफर्टेबल लगेगी। In fact, it is more comfortable than almost all of its rivals except Tata Nexon. Segment's biggest boot. Yes, that's what the Syros gets. अब एक कॉम्पैक्ट SUV खरीदी जाए और रोड ट्रिप्स पर ना जाया जाए तो ये तो काफ़ी गलत बात है। और उन रोड ट्रिप्स पर अगर 4 से 5 लोगों का वीकेंड के लिए सामान इस बूट में ना पाए वो और भी ज़्यादा गलत बात है। Syros ऐसा कुछ नहीं करती है because it gets 465 liters of trunk volume, which indeed is the best in the segment. Now the point number 5 is that the Syros is loaded with features to the brim. For example, what you're getting is a wireless charger here, along with that an air purifier, ventilated front seats. The driver's seat is power adjustable as well, and you also get a multi-function steering wheel with level 2 ADAS, again a 8-speaker sound system, auto dimming IRVM, a large panoramic sunroof, and a hell lot of those features, and a little more than that. But if I have to picky, I will say that the height adjustability for the driver seat would have been powered. और उसी के साथ आपको एक हेड अप डिस्प्ले भी यहाँ मिल सकता था, जो कि सोनेट और सेल्टोस दोनों में ही देखने को मिल जाता है। अगली चीज़ जो मुझे सिरोस के बारे में पसंद आई वो है इसका VIP रेयर सीट ट्रीटमेंट। आफ्टर ऑल ये जो सीट्स हैं ये काफ़ी कंफर्टेबल हैं, आपको अच्छा खासा अंडर थाई सपोर्ट मिल जाता है एंड दे कैन स्लाइड, इन फैक्ट दे कैन रिक्लाइन एज वेल। आपको यहाँ पर एक सेंटर आर्मरेस्ट मिलता है, 2 टाइप सी चार्जिंग पोर्ट्स मिल जाते हैं एंड यू डू गेट दीज सन ब्लाइंड्स एज वेल। और ये लिस्ट यहीं ख़त्म नहीं होती है, आपको ये वेंटिलेटेड सीट्स मिलती हैं, बट जो सीट बैक है वो वेंटिलेशन फंक्शन के साथ नहीं आती है, इट्स जस्ट द सीट स्कॉप। नॉनदलेस इट इज़ वन ऑफ द मोस्ट प्रीमियम रेयर सीट एक्सपीरियंस इन दिस सेगमेंट। अब सिरोस में आपको 2 इंजन ऑप्शंस मिलते हैं जो कि दोनों ही काफ़ी पावरफुल है। एक 1 लीटर टर्बो पेट्रोल जो कि 120 हॉर्स पावर बनाता है और 1.5 लीटर टर्बो डीजल जो कि आज हम चला रहे हैं, ये बनाता है लगभग 115 हॉर्स पावर और 250 न्यूटन मीटर का पीक टॉर्क। अब यहाँ पर हमें ये इंजन 6 स्पीड ऑटोमेटिक गियरबॉक्स के साथ मिला हुआ है and I have to say that diesel, after becoming a dying breed, Syros gets it in a very frugal manner because I have been driving this car for little over 500 kilometers now. Considering it has been with me for last few days, it is returning a mileage of around 15 to 16 kilometers to a liter in the city runabouts. On highways, these numbers went up to 18 to 19 kmpl. So that means it's a torquey diesel and frugal as well. Not all cars are perfect, and that's the case with Kia Syros as well. Therefore, here is a lineup of things that are not so nice on the Syros. और सबसे पहली चीज़ है इसका डिज़ाइन। Now it looks clean, but I think it looks just bland. और ऐसा ही कंफ्यूजन बायर्स में भी इसके डिज़ाइन को लेकर देखने को मिलता है। इट इज़ अ वेरी पोलराइजिंग डिज़ाइन, लेकिन हमें ये याद रखना चाहिए इसी ऑडबॉल और बॉक्सी डिज़ाइन की वजह से सिरोस एक काफ़ी प्रैक्टिकल कार बन के सामने आती है। इनफैक्ट हमें ये नहीं भूलना चाहिए कि इस ही स्टांस की वजह से वैगन आर इज़ व्हाट इट इज़ नाउ इन द इंडियन मार्केट। Pricey affair is what the Kia Syros feels like for the kind of equipment that its top variants offer. Now in comparison to Sonet, इसकी कीमतें थोड़ी ज़्यादा रखी गई हैं, वहीं सेल्टोस के मुकाबले इसकी कीमतें थोड़ी सी कम नज़र आती हैं। शुरू होती है 9.5 लाख रुपए से और जाती है 17,80,000 रुपए तक। लेकिन इसके टॉप वेरिएंट में आपको एक स्लाइडेबल फ्रंट सेंटर आर्मरेस्ट नहीं मिलता है और उसी के साथ आपको यहाँ नहीं मिलता है एक हेड अप डिस्प्ले जो कि सेल्टोस और सोनेट दोनों में ही अवेलेबल है। absence of a naturally aspirated engine with a CVT gearbox. Now this is a very boring combination, to be honest, but why do I feel it should have been here? Because Syros is targeted at those who want a comfortable, practical yet spacious car. And in a car like that, a 1-liter turbo petrol motor I don't think make much sense. In fact, either 1.2 liter NA or much better than that would have been the 1.5 liter NA motor straight from Kia Seltos in the Syros. Now it would have been more frugal and more refined offering than the 1-liter turbo petrol.
The story with the Breakout is the same yet different. Same because the kind of visual appeal and the mass it has and the road presence that the motorcycle has is unlike anything else. And different because the overall design of the Breakout is refreshingly different from any other Harley Softail. The motorcycle just looks brilliant. I mean, the raked out front end, the massive 21-inch front wheel. Well, 21-inch is something that you only see on adventure motorcycles. This odd shaped LED headlight, which looks really nice. And apart from that, this nice, massive teardrop shaped fuel tank and this vast gleaming expanse of chrome. And if you come on to this side, well, you can also see this heavy breather air filter just sticking out, but not like a sore thumb. Then you have this 2-in-2 exhaust, again fully chrome. And if you come towards the rear, you will see that the fender is chopped and this massive 240 section tire in all its glory. Well, this is a motorcycle that looks more like a custom motorcycle and rather than something which has been rolled off an assembly line. I absolutely love the way the Breakout looks. Now the Breakout gets a decent set of features which includes ABS and traction control along with a small negative LCD screen mounted on the handlebar which shows all the required info, although it is a bit difficult to read under bright sun. Alright, so let's talk about the ergonomics of the Breakout. It's very easy to swing a leg over because the seat height is a scant 665 mm, right? And well, the foot peg is positioned forward like you see in case of cruisers. The handlebar is nice and wide with a thick piece of chrome in the center. The moment you sit on this motorcycle, you get that feeling of being the king of tarmac. And you sit nice, wide, relaxed. But if you were to drag this out of a parking spot, it is going to take some serious muscle because this weighs in at 310 kg. But does all of that weight disappear on the move? Well, let's find out. But before we do so, let me make you listen to the exhaust note of the Harley-Davidson Breakout. So, are you curious to know what kind of an engine this monster of a motorcycle packs in? Well, it gets a 1923cc V-twin, also called the Milwaukee 8117, which refers to the cubic inch capacity. The behemoth of an engine is air-cooled and it makes about 102 horsepower at 5020 RPM, along with putting out a mind-blowing 168 Newton meters of peak torque at a relatively low 3500 RPM. To put that into perspective, the Tata Nexon Petrol with a 1.2 liter engine makes 170 Newton meters at up to 4000 RPM. Talking about performance, well, the motorcycle pulls like a freight train. I mean, the kind of torque that it generates is absurd, just absurd. The sheer ferocity with which the motorcycle accelerates, well, that is something that you have to feel it to believe it. Well, the vibrations, they're not overly intrusive, they're very well contained. You do feel vibrations on the handlebar and the foot pegs, but nothing that is a deal breaker. And of course, this is a huge Harley and vibrations are going to be a part of your riding experience. The one thing that I found annoying was this fuel filler cap, which is well, annoying, so to say, because it was continuously vibrating. But otherwise, well, if you are somebody who wants to cruise at triple digit speeds all day long, the Breakout can do that with relative ease.
This is the 2024 model of the Breakout and it is priced at 31 lakh rupees ex-showroom.
Well, that's all for today. I will see you next week on the show. And if you want to continue watching auto-related content, you have to go to YouTube and find NDTV Auto, subscribe and do press that bell icon so that you get notified every time we upload a video. You can also follow us on your favorite social media platform. Till we meet again, take care, drive safe, see you soon.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Osama Shah. The situation in the Middle East is getting tense by the minute after Israel's unprecedented strikes crippled Iran's nuclear and military might. A retaliatory firestorm has engulfed the region. Tehran and Tel Aviv are now battlegrounds, rockets by a fresh barrage of missiles and drones. Casualties are mounting on both the sides with dozens killed, hundreds wounded, and the warning grows even more dire. Tehran will burn. This is what Israel has declared, while Iran has threatened to hit UK, US, and France military bases if they defend Israel. We get you the latest on this special coverage, asking all the important questions. How far will this conflict go, and who will pay the ultimate price? Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just a short while ago has issued a threat saying, and I quote this, "In the very near future, you will see Israeli Air Force jets over the skies of Tehran." Meanwhile, as I mentioned, Israel has resumed its attack on Iran. The US-Iran nuclear talks have been called off. Iran and Israel, they are trading warnings. Missiles are being fired from both the sides, and there are reports that 3 people have been killed in Israel. At least 40 have been injured there. Meanwhile, in Iran, at least 78 have lost their lives on its soil. And Israel and Iran, they are trading blows in the sky from words to warplanes. Tensions are escalating in the Middle East as we speak.
شهادت سرداران و دانشمندان عزیز که البته برای همه سنگین است و تعدادی از مردم غیر نظامی رو به ملت ایران به خانواده های اونها تبریک و تسلیت عرض میکنم. و اما مطلبی که مایل بودم با ملت عزیزمون در میان بذارم اینه که رژیم صهیونیستی اشتباه بزرگی کرد، خطای بزرگی کرد، غلطی کرد و عواقب او رو بیچاره خواهد کرد به توفیق الهی. ملت ایران از خون شهدای گرانقدر نخواهد گذشت، از تجاوز با آسمان کشورش صرف نظر نخواهد کرد.
אזרחי ישראל, אני גאה בכם. אני גאה בכושר העמידה שלכם. אני גאה ברוח שלכם. ודווקא כשיש פגיעות בעורף, אתם מניפים את הדגל. אתם לא נכנעים. לצערי היו גם 3 אבדות אתמול של אזרחים יקרים שנהרגו בהתקפות הללו. אני משתתף בצער המשפחות, ואני קורא לכם שוב, הישמעו להנחיות פיקוד העורף, הן מצילות חיים.
All right, we are getting you all the latest from the ground. Ricky Rosen joins us live from Tel Aviv. Ricky, given your current location and the ongoing situation in Tel Aviv, can you describe the immediate aftermath of the latest missile barrages in Tel Aviv? What is the visible damage? How are the emergency services responding?
I'm located here right outside of Tel Aviv at the site where this morning at 5 in the morning, 2 people were killed and about 12 houses and buildings in this area were seriously damaged, and some of them were demolished by Iranian missiles. Right now, there is a collection of soldiers from the Home Front Command who are surveying the site maybe you can see them in back of me, to get instructions about how to deal with these kinds of attacks in the future, because Israel expects that since its attacks in Iran are continuing, that the Iranian counterattacks will also continue as soon as in the next coming hours and throughout the night.
Right. Also, give us a sense of what is the current atmosphere like among the residents. Are people worried? Are they remaining in shelters? Is there a sense of trying to return to normalcy amidst the alerts that are being issued there?
The Home Front Command, which told people to stay in their houses and right inside or next to protected areas like bomb shelters, they eased the instructions to say that you just had to stay close to a protected area. The Israelis who came by the hundreds to visit these sites were very proud at how Israel is standing firm in the face of what they consider to be Iranian aggression, and said that they will do whatever is necessary to protect the home front and hopefully not to suffer any more casualties.
Ricky, we are also, getting reports, and we are hearing these reports of hospitals moving patients underground. Can you confirm that for us? Also, can you also provide more details on the preparedness of Tel Aviv's infrastructure for such sustained attacks there?
They are incredibly prepared. There is an underground hospital inside Tel Aviv. There's also an underground hospital inside Haifa, because they are used to getting attacks from Lebanon, from Hezbollah in Lebanon. And they just transferred a whole unit of babies from a neonatal unit in an unprotected hospital into the protected underground hospital in Haifa. Tel Aviv has a lot of beds available in case the hospitals that are above ground are attacked and hit by Iranian missiles. But the Home Front Command and the Iron Dome system are pretty confident that they will be able to intercept most of the ballistic missiles and drones that Iran.
Why was there a hurry? Was it the government that was in a hurry?
I don't want to blame anyone.
Joining us today here in the NDTV newsroom.
The government cannot walk away from this responsibility.
Cricket is a region of sort in this country.
Would you like to comment on what happened?
What is the condition of the injured at this point? How many people died?
What exactly happened? You have lost your daughter.
Of Pahalgam, all eyes on the...
Good evening, this is Left, Right and Centre and I'm Maria Shakir. It's the third day since the devastating Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad that killed 275 people, including both passengers and those on the ground at the crash site. The question on everyone's mind is still the same. What led to the crash? What went wrong? Was it a technical snag or a human error? All these questions will be answered once the investigators retrieve data from that black box that was recovered on Friday. Meanwhile, the families of the victims are waiting for the DNA result so that they get the bodies of their loved ones and perform their last rites. So far, 9 bodies have been identified and handed over to their relatives. Meanwhile, Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu has reviewed the progress of the probe and has said that security and safety mechanisms are being enhanced in the wake of this crash. Let's listen in to what the Civil Aviation Minister said earlier today.
We are going to form another high-level committee before. And immediately we have constituted the committee also yesterday. The Home Secretary is going to be the chairman of the committee. Secretary Ministry of Civil Aviation, Additional Secretary from MHA, one representative from the state of Gujarat where the incident actually happened, representative from State Disaster Response Authority, Government of Gujarat, Police Commissioner Ahmedabad, DG Inspection and Safety from the Indian Air Force, DG BCAS, which is the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, DG DGCA, Special Director from IB, and Director from the Directorate of Forensic Sciences Services. So like you see, the composition of the high-level committee involves people from various backgrounds, and we have put a time limit of 3 months for them to sit down, talk to various stakeholders, and involve and discuss with any other important expert that is necessary as per their investigation.
Captain Kishore Chinta, Chief Pilot of Sirius India Airlines Private Limited, is joining us live. Captain Chinta, the question of course is that when did the pilot and at what stage, critical stage, did he lose control over the aircraft, and did he actually have any time for the recovery? All those answers are now part of that black box which was recovered yesterday.
Good evening, ma'am. Absolutely. The key to every answer, every speculation, every theory which has been played out over the last 48 hours to 72 hours is in that flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder. Based on the videos which we've seen and eyewitness accounts, we can at best do a guess estimate that the pilots had about 10 to 12 seconds from the time the wheels left the ground before they gave a mayday call, and after that the aircraft started descending. So even that is just speculation based on a grainy CCTV video. So between those 10 to 12 seconds is what those pilots had to bring all their knowledge, all their training, all the situational awareness, everything, every input which the aircraft gave them to do what they could do best. You know, one of the major things which they did was maintain those wings level. I mean, otherwise the aircraft would have gone down even quicker, and probably more lives would have been lost on ground.
Okay. Let me
so we should laud the pilots for whatever reaction time which they had to whatever they did. The actual story will definitely play out from when the AIB brings out the actual data from the flight data recorder and
yes.
the cockpit
I can
voice
see
recorder.
Captain Manik also joining us. He is the founder of the Skyline Aviation Club. But before I go to Captain Manik, let me bring in Ankit Tyagi, who's joining us from Ahmedabad. Ankit, you were right there when that the tail of AI-171, the crashed plane, was actually being moved. And has the entire debris been cleared so far, or do you think it's a huge task, perhaps will take weeks?
Well, Maria, I've spent almost 2 days continuously there since the time I arrived in Ahmedabad at the crash site. And just to give you a sense, we don't realize the magnitude of what an aircraft debris looks like, because this was a huge aircraft. And even at the crash site, from the tail that we have been showing, that unfortunately became the very picture of this entire accident. About 600 to 700 meters from that tail, there are 5 to 6 buildings, 4 buildings facing in front, 2 behind, apart from the mess and 1 more building adjoining to it. All that area is the part of the debris. So it is going to take time. Why the tail was only taken, down from the place where it was lodged in, because earlier, as we reported, unfortunately, there was 1 more body which was found today. In fact, my guess is that the clearing of the body or the remains of those who were on board and on ground, I think we will always be about 99% because of the intense inferno and the heat that this plane, which was carrying hundreds of gallons of that aviation fuel, burned for many, many hours. So it is going to be a tedious task. Also remember that, yes, the vital clue is the flight data recorder, but every part of that aircraft, even if it is in burn condition, will have to be taken back for investigation for experts to in fact weigh in. So all that has to be cleared section by section. It will take another 24 hours, if nothing less, for that entire debris to be cleared up from that, in that context, Maria. I was, in fact, earlier, like you said, at that location. Now I'm at the civil hospital where the other side of the story plays out.
And that's the most heartbreaking side, Ankit, as families wait for closure. You know, the closure will come only after the last rites are performed. And they want the DNA samples to be matched at the earliest. Ankit, just tell us what you're seeing around you. It's been almost more than 48 hours already.
I keep thinking every time we are live or every time we are speaking about it, which adjective should I use to in fact bring out the situation of the families. And any adjective from the dictionary that I use will still not be enough to convey what they are going through. I just saw, in the last 1 hour that I've been standing here at the DNA sample collection room, 3 new families came. 3, all from very different strata. One which flew in from England, and went in. The other 2 are coming from very far away, from a village in Gujarat. The women, those who had come, possibly because it's right now, in some parts of Gujarat raining, came in a sweater while we were facing sweltering heat. Now imagine for the first time, they might, even if they have left their village, the first thing that they do have to come here to give a DNA sample, which they have absolutely no understanding about. They don't know what this DNA thing is. They only want to see their loved ones. And the way the families break down, first, of course, to hear and bear the pain that your loved ones are gone. And then, of course, this long wait, 72 hours is, of course, expedited process, but it's very, very long. Every second is very long for those who have lost their loved ones. It's a very tedious process, Maria. One part of it is which plays here behind me at the Kotaki Bhavan, where the living members of the family come and give their DNA sample. The other part is played on the body and the remains which have been found. The same situation is with them as well. Sample is collected and then of course they are matched. Anything over 96% accuracy is deemed fit to be declared body related to some family, and then that family is given those bodies. So far, 9 positive samples have in fact emerged. 1 body has been handed over, 2 others are expected to be handed over this evening itself. And the others, in fact, would be handed over tomorrow. Tomorrow we are expecting, I don't have the heart and to speak to these people. I was referring to them. They had just gone in, a short while back. And I do not have the heart to go and ask them what's happening, with them, because while it's difficult reporting grief, and it's difficult to see how everybody processes their own grief. But as we speak, the weight is something that people are hoping with every passing hour would bring them to that closure that you were talking about.
All right, Ankit, thank you for joining us. Captain Manik is joining us. Captain Manik, no initial findings of what caused this crash has been disclosed, but of course the investigators are looking at multiple possibilities. When you look at that visual, of course the visual evidence which has been there now across all platforms, those images and the video which show the first few seconds before the crash, and there was that CCTV camera which was also located on the far left of that runway, which has given some idea as well. What's your assessment of a possible reason?
The reason, what I see, there are a number of factors involved. It seems, and it's very, very early to say anything about unless we retrieve a black box, which consists of DFDR and CVR. Fortunately, we are very fortunate that we got the DFDR and CVR black box, one of them, within 24 hours. It's going to take little time to retrieve data. The first of all, it's required to be cleaned, the protective layers to be removed, the connections to be connected properly, and then it will be processing, and it will take a couple of weeks, maybe months. And if we go in a very deeper way to investigate, it will take a year also. So aircraft investigation bureau, AIB, will take care of that. But till now, what we are just doing is speculation, what has happened so far. We have a number of stories and a number of experts are saying number of things, but still we have to wait for the the data which we have to receive from the CVR and DFDR.
And, Captain Chinta, the Civil Aviation Ministry has said clearly that the pilots did issue the Mayday call. And that call was made to the traffic controllers, and that happened at 1:39 Indian Standard Time. And when officials tried to communicate, the pilots did not respond, which was very clear that the plane was losing height. And after reaching an altitude of roughly around 625 feet, and then it crashes in that hostel, the BJ Medical College Hospital, the college hostel. The question then is, the fuel contamination is being seen as one of the major reasons here.
Even fuel contamination is speculation as of now. We
yes,
cannot
absolutely.
rule out the possibility.
All
definitely,
these reasons are speculation.
Absolutely, it's a possibility for sure.
Yes,
but we all have to understand that the aircraft rolled under full power. If there was fuel contamination, the aircraft is equipped with various fuel sensors, fuel filters, and a fuel system which would flag any form of contamination and give the pilots adequate. We don't know. It might be possible that they did get a fuel contamination or a fuel filter warning or whatever. We do not know what happened in that cockpit at that point of time. As with regards to no communication from them after the Mayday call, all pilots are ingrained with a standard process: aviate, navigate, communicate. That means you fly the aeroplane first, then you navigate the aeroplane, and then you communicate to outside agencies. They did their part on communicating after getting airborne, and they were focusing on using every possible skill and getting the aeroplane to fly as far as possible, as we can see from the videos.
Yes, and Captain Chinta, there are reports which suggest that this particular aircraft, the Dreamliner, which has been flying from Ahmedabad to London, in the past also one of the pilots has gone on record to say that he had communicated to the Air India authorities that there is a problem with this particular aircraft. Do you think that problem was overlooked?
This is a way too advanced aircraft to hide any form of fault history on the aeroplane. If there was a fault, even if the pilot did not report it, the fault history would be downloaded through the ACAR system. The Air India engineering would have every single record of every warning which would have come, any parameter on the airplane which was not within the limits as set by the manufacturer and the set guidelines. Everything would be there. Nobody can hide anything. The fault history is there for everyone to see. If whatever has been said, that faults were reported on this particular airplane, in all probability, they would have been rectified before the aircraft was released to service and fly again. So the airworthiness part of it just cannot be whisked away. I hear a lot in the media. There has been a lot of hype. The air conditioning was not working. The IFP was not working, and various other parts. We have to understand that as an airplane, there is something called a minimum equipment list to declare the aircraft airworthy. when all those equipments are functional, if even one of them is not functional or some caution light or a parameter, there are laid down procedures both for the maintenance as well as the operations. So everything is laid down and approved by the regulator DGCA, and the operators' manuals would have all these parameters. So it's just sensational and speculation as of now, saying
so
that
Captain Manik, this is for the first time a Dreamliner has been involved in a fatal accident, but doesn't really mean that this particular model has not faced questions in the past. So the Dreamliner, as reports are suggesting, could be grounded, particularly because there is a need for further checks and balance to be put in place. That's what the indication is. Do you think the regulatory authorities have to really ensure that if there is any kind of report against an aircraft, then it should be immediately grounded? There cannot be any chance whatsoever.
Yes, I agree with that. But so far, the history and what we have seen so far, the record shows the aircraft is perfect, and the manufacturer, Boeing company, has done very good to create a very good safe plane. All planes are safe. Aeroplanes are made to fly and to fly safely. The regulatory authority, like FAA in the US, or we have in our own country, DGCA, is taking care of all those safety measures. But still, if there is something which is to be coming out, which is doubtful, is required to be taken care of that. I agree with that. But still, there is speculation, and we are still waiting for the data to be retrieved from CVR and DFDR. And Captain Kishore, he said rightly, all aeroplanes are made to fly safely, and it's going on well. So sometimes certain things happens, which is beyond the control, and such accidents are not occurring because of one reason. There are a number of series of reasons which are involved. As per the studies, what so far says, at least there are minimum 6 factors, which are responsible for those kind of major disaster accidents. And this is what we are unfortunate in India to have this kind of thing happen in our own country, in Ahmedabad, which was a repetition of similar accident which happened on 13th October 1988, where 133 passengers died, and I lost one of my friend, Archana